back when we were hunters and gatherers, when we wanted a natural material, we went out and we harvested it. You know, we harvested wood, or we wanted silk, we would go out and find silk, spider webs or silk from worms, okay, and gather that silk. And that was this idea of bioutilization. We still do it today. So we would grab that ivory, for instance, from that elephant, kill that elephant for that ivory. And then we got to the point where we realized, well, gee, if we domesticate animals, if we domesticate the producer, we could have that material all the time. We could have that milk all the time, or that honey from the bees all the time, if we domesticate them. So we began to breed producers. And that was bio-assisted technologies, which again we have to this day with making bread and yeast and all of our agricultural crops. Okay, these are bio-assisted. We have other organisms help us produce something. Okay, so it would be, for instance, in the silkworm case, it would be instead of harvesting the silkworm in the wild, you breed silkworms. Okay, bio-assisted. Now this next level that biomimicry talks about is a third kind of bio, and it's bio-inspired. And what it says is we're not going to harvest the natural material, and we're not going to breed the producer. We're going to emulate the producer. We're going to become the producer ourselves of this material. It's very different. So, for instance, with, let's say, abalone, the beautiful mother of pearl, we used to harvest that, sometimes over-harvest it. You know, the next phase of bio-assisted would be to farm the abalone. Unfortunately, now we go into transgenics. Farm animal as factory. But that third level, that bio-inspired, we look at that natural material and we ask the organism for its recipe and for its design. And we begin to make that natural material ourselves. We have been emulating producers for a while, but what's exciting to me is the expansion of this idea. Okay, if you take an example like silk that we were talking about, where we used to harvest the silk from the wild, and then we domesticated silkworms, and then we emulated silk. We actually did, when we were running out of silk, we emulated it in the form of nylon. So we emulated that form, okay? But what happened was, all we emulated was the form of the nylon, the molecular form of the silk. But we made that nylon out of oil, fossil fuels, which the spider, of course, would never do. And we made it by heating it up to enormously high temperatures, very energy intensive, putting it in toxic solvents, putting it under, drawing it out under high pressure. It's a completely different manufacturing process than the spider does, which, you know, it takes, the spider or the silkworm creates the protein in its own abdomen with water, and then very gently squeezes it out through spinnerets at room temperature, life-friendly conditions. So what's exciting to me about this bio-inspired track is the place we haven't yet gone as a culture, which is, why don't we not just mimic form, but let's make it, let's manufacture it and process it in the way that nature does. And let's make sure that the materials we make it out of are then biodegradable at the end of their lives, the way nature's materials are. And once you get to that form of mimicry, where you're mimicking form and process and those ecosystem level lessons, I think then that the idea of man-made should elevate in status. I mean, we should all of us be proud to wear material that mimics fur, for instance, but that's made in a way that we've learned from nature. And the idea of hunting down the last cheetah for that real fur will have enough social taboo against it, and we'll realize that real status is in in finally becoming mature as a species.